Hello everyone. So today we are going to be covering chapter 5 and chapter 7. Last week we didn't have a lot because I had a lot going on for my other jobs, and I figured that you also wanted to get a break. So I tried to give you a break last week and also to try to get you to do your introduction videos and give you time so I'm not loading upon your normal workload with another video. So if you have not done your introduction video, you're late. It was due last week. I kept it open, so make sure you submit that for me. Now, this week we're going to be covering chapter 5 and chapter 7. The way the book works out, they have it in chapter 5 and then in chapter 7, but I personally believe that it flows better to combine these two chapters, and they should have done them in chapter 5 and chapter 6, but we're just going to do it this way. We will cover chapter 6 later on, but that's going to be with nonverbal, and we'll cover that throughout the semester. So looking at it, today we're going to be covering language, ethics, and listening. Again, it's chapter 5 and chapter 7. So let's go ahead and get started. To start with, language is the unified systems of symbols that helps us communicate meaning, basically. So without language, we wouldn't be able to use any of this. How did we assign the word apple an apple? And different things like that. That goes with social construction theory, which is a communication theory, but we're not going to dive into all of that. But basically, it gave us this symbol and this word to help assign things. For example, this is an eraser. If not, we could have named it something different. We could have named it just Expo or different things like that, right? But we assign that symbol to this item, or this item a symbol, or different things like that, okay? But it helps us conversate and helps us communicate meaning throughout it, through these symbols. So moving forward, when we make assumptions, that's where a lot of miscommunication comes in. And a lot of it comes in because we have different forms of language, different forms of communication, and we put different symbols to a different thing. So before we go on, I'm going to do a peanut butter and jelly example. In a second, I'm going to ask you to pause the video, and you're going to write out how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, okay? So you're just going to be writing out how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Before you do that, I'm going to tell you the items you need and the items I have. You're going to be teaching me how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with bread, jelly, peanut butter, a knife, and a spoon. Okay? So you have bread, jelly, peanut butter, a knife, and a spoon. Pause the video right now and tell me how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You're going to pull out a piece of paper, write it out step by step, step 1 to step however many, how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with these 5 items. Okay, pause the video. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you paused the video. If not, you should have already done so. Now, you have all your steps written out. A lot of times miscommunication comes in because we make assumptions. With this, you should have told me how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Now, I wonder what your first step is. A lot of people say, pull out 2 pieces of bread. How do I do that? You need to say something like, unscrew or open the bag. If you would have said open the bag, I would have known to undo the twist tie and then pull out 2 pieces of bread, okay? Now I pull out the 2 pieces of bread, and then I move on, and then you might say, scoop the spoon into the peanut butter. Well, first I have to open up the jar. You missed that step. You're making assumptions that I know exactly what I'm doing. I might not know how to open this. You might be talking to a 3-year-old, which, yes, you're talking to someone who has degrees and should be able to know how to open up a jar of peanut butter, but you cannot make the assumptions at that point. A lot of times we make assumptions because the people in our culture know how to open up a jar. But sometimes if you go to a different culture, different country or anything like that, you cannot make that assumption that they know how to open up the bag. When you say pull out 2 pieces of bread, cavemen might just try to rip open the bag to get 2 pieces of bread. So you cannot make assumptions. That's where a lot of it goes in. Now I'm going to tell you right now, this activity is a lot more fun when you're actually in class because I have you write it out and then I pull everything out. And then I have you come up and try to make your peanut butter and jelly sandwich by following someone else's instructions. So it's a lot more fun to watch these people kind of make a fool of themselves. But you don't get to do that. But you can maybe do it to a friend, okay? Now moving forward with making assumptions, we need to know that there are the same words with different meanings, right? And sometimes there are different words with the same meanings. And that listening is key. You have to listen to what people are saying, okay? Because there are details in the words. Sometimes you might not know what a word means, but you can look at all the words around it to be able to figure it out. But looking at the different words in different meanings and different things like that, let's go back to a Disney reference. Do you remember Pocahontas? Why was John Smith and all of his cohorts over there? They're looking for gold. And this is what we know as gold. But when John Smith told Pocahontas, I'm looking for gold, she pulls out corn. This was gold to her. This is what she thought he was talking about, gold. But this is what they were looking for. But they didn't have any of that. They made the assumption, and when she said gold, she said, yeah, we have gold, but it wasn't this gold, it was this gold. You cannot make assumptions like that. And different words have different meanings, which we'll talk about in a little bit more for your activity and your participation. Okay? So you cannot make these assumptions. If not, you're never going to be able to get your peanut butter and jelly sandwich going. Now, when we are doing this, we need to make sure that we know different words and different cultures have different meanings, just like the gold and corn reference that I just did. But language is how we interpret it. Some people say something is spicy, and it's nothing to other people. But we have to know that spicy might mean a different level of spice for certain people. Certain words might mean certain things. You might say something, and your grandparents might look at you and be like, excuse you, you do not say that. Or your grandparents look at something, and they say something, and it's just like, oh my gosh, my grandparents just said this thing, and it means something so funny. I remember that really happened to me when I was in my English class my freshman year. I had an international student went up to my English teacher, and he needed a rubber band, but he asked her for a rubber. And my English teacher just paused and thought, and remember that different cultures have different ideas. So she knew that he needed a rubber band, but my whole class had a different idea of what he was meaning. So make sure that you're communicating well and there's not those miscommunications and you're not making assumptions to lead to the miscommunications. Because language and listening to that language is very key when you're trying to do stuff. Now, moving on, we have the First Amendment. The First Amendment goes in with a lot of the ethics, but it also talks about listening. The First Amendment is freedom of speech. Now, a lot of people think that freedom of speech means I can just say anything that I want, but it doesn't. Freedom of speech means you can say anything you want as long as you are not going into someone else's rights. You can say anything about any president that we've ever had, right? You can say anything that you want about anybody else. But the thing is, once you start saying, like, this person is a mother, beep, 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 and you're starting to offend someone, or you're starting to harass someone, or you're starting to do anything like that, that's when you are not doing the First Amendment. It goes into violating other people's amendments. The First Amendment says that you can have freedom of speech, freedom of press, different things like that. And you can say almost anything you want as long as you are not hitting and violating other people's rights. Because if you were threatening someone and doing different things like that, then your freedom of speech, your First Amendment has been crossed. You're not doing the First Amendment anymore. You're crossing and violating other people's amendments. And people really need to realize that, especially in today's world, that there are different things and people have different views, but once you start violating other people's rights, then it crosses the line. So you cannot say that I have the First Amendment, because you do. You really do. But you need to make sure that you don't cross the First Amendment and violate it, which a lot of people like you will not, and I hope you will not, okay? But we need to remember that the freedom of speech is just going from a different thing like that. Now going on with ethics. Buzz Lightyear. I can say whatever I want because the First Amendment says I can, which is incorrect, okay? But remember, communication is a two-way street. You have to be able to listen to the other person. You can't just say everything. You have to listen. Barack Obama did a great example of that. He was doing a speech, and no matter if you like Barack Obama or not, but he was doing a speech and some guy just kept yelling at him. And then Barack Obama finally paused and looked at him and said, "Sir, can you stop so I can just talk?" And the guy said, "No, I have the freedom of speech. I can do whatever I want." Barack Obama then informed him that he was actually violating the First Amendment, and then the guy was actually taken away because he was violating Barack Obama's rights to actually speak. And Barack Obama did not have the freedom of speech because the other guy was thinking that he had the freedom of speech and him talking could just be whatever he wanted and he could shut everyone else up by just talking. Okay? And no matter what you think of Barack Obama or not, that happened, and that's the facts. Moving on to ethics. President Clinton teaches us a lot about ethics and credibility. Again, putting politics aside, no matter what you think about President Clinton, looking at actually what he did for the economy, it was amazing. He's known as one of the best presidents for the economy because the rate the economy was going was awesome. The income America had, the jobs and everything. President Clinton had a great plan, and he was a great president in his time of office when you look at him on paper. Now, if you go back and look at what he did, it wasn't that great. Now, for those of you who do not know what President Clinton did, he had an affair with an intern. But first, what happened after he had the affair, he came out and he waved his finger at us and said, "I have not had sexual relations with that woman." And then he came back later and said, "Actually, I did. Oops." Now, the thing is, America probably, if he would have came out and said, "You know what, I did sleep with her, I'm sorry," they would have probably been like, "Okay, you're not that great of a guy, but you're still a pretty good president. Let's step back and you're fine." But what they do not like is they lied to him, or he lied to us as Americans, right? So President Clinton lied to everyone, so his credibility went down because he was unethical. If he was just honest with us, we still wouldn't have liked what he did, but he would have been able to do that. And there's a lot of that going around with President Trump right now, too. Is he lying to people or is he not? Is he just being straight up honest with us? And that's a lot of the ethics and a lot of the assumptions that are going around right now. Okay? But we need to make sure that when we're speaking, we are stating what is true and what is ethical. Okay? And we want to make sure that our credibility stays. So you want to make sure you're always stating the truth and you're not just stating some random facts. Because if you do, then your credibility is just going to be shot down. Okay? Now, plagiarizing. We're just going to real touch base on this. If you do not remember any of this, make sure you go to the APA section in the online classroom. Okay? So plagiarizing. This is stealing someone else's words or ideas. If someone has the ideas here and you're just like, "Oh, I'm going to paraphrase what they say," and you still don't cite them, that is still called plagiarizing. So make sure you don't do that. You need to make sure when you cite, you have written citations on there. So using APA, again, go check how you do that. But also oral citations. You need to say, "According to this person, we did this." Okay? Make sure that you're citing on there. If you are giving a speech and you say the definition of this word is stealing words or ideas, and you never say "according to," then I'm going to be questioning where you got that from. And you just plagiarized someone else's ideas, and you're not going to pass your speech. So make sure you do that, because if not, you're stealing someone else's ideas. I want to hear your ideas that you use, and you can give citations and help support your stuff with someone else's ideas, but make sure you don't plagiarize, okay? Now, this is your participation. You're going to be finding the same word with different meanings, okay? Uploaded onto the classroom is it's a page that has a lot of different words. What you're going to do is first, you're going to probably want to print out 2 copies of this. First, you're going to go through the list of 15 words, and you're going to write out what it means, okay? So you're going to go in, and if one of the words on there says something, then you're going to say what you means, according to yourself. Do not look up the word. All these words are very basic, okay? So, for example, that I have on there is the word junk. I put, junk is something that you put in a box and you put in the attic or you want to throw out, but it's just junk. No one wants it, okay? That's what you put. It's a very loose definition. Your words. It does not have to sound formal or anything. You just write what you think it is. And then after you write the definitions, you're going to hand a blank paper to them, to someone else who's older than you. The older the better. If you can get your grandparents to participate, that's great. Or you can ask them, be like, "Hey, I'm going to ask you a word and you tell me the definition." Then with that, you're going to go in and you're going to have the same words, or you're going to give them the same words, and they're going to define it according to themselves, okay? And then after that, you're going to get their words and your words and compare it. Are all the words the same? Are any of the words different? If so, what words were the same? If so, what words were different? Why were they different? Why do you think that? And then you're going to discuss that. And then you're going to say in 20 years, when you have kids or the generation that's being born right now, what do you think that they're going to be saying with these words, okay? So that's what you're going to be doing for your participation. Make sure you upload it before Sunday. You're going to be writing the words and definitions of the... You're going to be writing the definition of the words. Then give someone older, again, older the better, the definition of the words as well. Take your words and their definitions and your definitions and then compare them. Tell us the similarities, the differences, and discuss that in the paper. You're not going to discuss it with the person, discuss it within the paper. And then you're going to fast forward for 20 years and then say, what do you think the words are going to be there, okay? Now, this last part is called the listening game. I'm about to pull some paper out. I'm about to have a piece of paper, and I'm going to tell you a story. You do not need to take notes. You do not need to do anything. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to read it to you twice. Right after this, you are going to need to go and take the quiz. There's a quiz on there, and it's worth 0 points for it, but it's part of this, okay? So your quiz goes in with your discussion, okay? So your quiz goes in with your discussion. I'm going to read the story. You're going to go and take the quiz. Right after, you're going to go on the discussion and tell us what you made on the quiz. Even if you made a 12, who cares? I've had people who made a 0 on this quiz. The quiz itself is not the grade. The discussion is the grade. The quiz is part of the activity, okay? So I'm going to read it, take the quiz, and then on the discussion, you're going to tell us what grade you got, and then you're going to go in and discuss why. You're going to discuss the reasoning you got the grade, and tell us, do you think you are a good listener or not, okay? So last time, I'm going to tell you, right after this, I'm going to read this story twice. Right after I read the story, go take the quiz, okay? You're only going to take the quiz once. The grade on the quiz does not matter. You need to know it for the discussion, and that's it, okay? So right after this, video is going to be done. Take the quiz. It'll be great. Here we go. A businessman just turned off the lights in a store when a man appeared and demanded money. The owner opened the cash register. The contents of the cash register were scooped up and the man sped away. A member of the police force was notified promptly. That's the story. Again, do not take notes. That's cheating. No notes. I'm going to read it to you one more time. A businessman had just turned off the lights in the store when a man appeared and demanded money. The owner opened a cash register. The contents of the cash register were scooped up and a man sped away. A member of the police force was notified promptly. Okay, go take the quiz. Do not replay this video. Go take the quiz just by memory, and let's see how well of a listener you were, okay? Do not replay this video. Do not take notes. That is cheating if you do so, okay? Other than that, you'll have a great week. If you need anything, let me know. Bye.